Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Today, I want to talk to you about the fact that two clients show up for an energy healing session. Yes, two, not one, but two. And both need to be in alignment to get the highest benefit from the work. Those two clients are your client's higher self and ego/personality, which I will refer to as the personality. You need buy-in from both. If either one is not on board, resistance shows up and the session just won't land as deeply. Let's start out with the less common scenario first, when the higher self is resisting. I recently worked with a client whose personality was open and happy to receive, yet I felt a strong resistance in her structure. As I tuned in more deeply, it became clear the resistance wasn't coming from the personality, but from a higher, more authoritative presence within her structure, her higher self. I paused the session, shared what I was sensing, and she took a moment to become present within. When I restarted, her structure opened and began receiving the work much more fully. That brief moment of acknowledgement shifted the entire session. Her personality and higher self needed to come into alignment for the work to hold. Now let's talk about the second, far more common scenario, which is when the personality is resisting the work and the higher self is all in. This looks like the higher self wanting to receive the work, but the personality being unwilling or hesitant to do so. During these sessions, the resistance can be much harder to work with, as it can feel like you're dealing with an internal struggle between the client's higher self and their personality. The structure will absorb some of the work, but just not all of it. So, how can you tell the difference? When the higher self is resisting, it feels like the entire structure is blocking the work. It's a clear, solid no, with very little movement or receptivity. There's often a higher, more authoritative quality to the resistance as well. When the personality is resisting, it's a bit more nuanced. You may feel resistance in specific areas within their structure or around certain themes like forgiveness, trust, or vulnerability. The person may receive some of the work, but not fully. This kind of resistance often carries fear, defensiveness, or trauma-related tension. I want to be clear here. Everyone who comes in for a session is working through something difficult. What I'm talking about is active resistance, when the personality has already decided what it will and won't allow in a session. This can sound like, I fully don't trust this yet, or we can work on anything except issues relating to my mother. Now, let's explore some reasons why resistance might be present. The first one is when the higher self wants change, but the personality fears it. The personality may be attached to familiar patterns, such as mistrust, anger, or fear, even when those patterns are painful. Your client booked the session because they want to change, but a part of them isn't ready to release what's familiar. Some resistance here is normal, and that's okay. The energy work is slowly chipping away at what needs to resolve until the personality can surrender it. The second form of resistance is when the personality needs to acknowledge something the higher self wants it to see. The higher self wants the personality to acknowledge something. What that something is may not be clear to the practitioner or even the client. It can come in the form of a feeling, a realization, or something that's going to unfold over time. Regardless, it still needs to be acknowledged within the session for the healing to open and become deeper. In some cases, the higher self simply just wants the personality to acknowledge their partnership in the healing journey. A third reason for resistance is trust. Sometimes the trust needs to be built between the client and practitioner. Until safety is established, the personality can create walls. Another reason for resistance is compatibility between the client and practitioner. There could be personality differences here or even karmic dynamics at play. In this case, the person just simply needs a different practitioner, and that is okay. Then we have timing. The client may simply just not be ready to receive work that day. The timing isn't aligned. They might not be in the right mental, physical, emotional, or even spiritual state to process the work. It's important to honor that and reschedule if possible. If rescheduling isn't an option, gentle relaxation or light energy work might help put them at ease. And lastly, the healing modality just might not be the right fit. For example, I wanted to practice a new healing modality on my sister that I had been learning. And from the get go, I felt resistance. I was met with such comments as, I'm not in the right mental space to think about this right now. Essentially, my sister had become used to the ease of a Reiki session where she could relax and have internal mystical experiences. This new modality required engagement and introspection. So we both agreed that for the time being, Reiki was more suited for her. And when she was ready, we could try the new modality if she desired. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when you find resistance. At the start of a session, you can check readiness using a pendulum or a dowsing rod. I've had rare cases in which my dowsing rod indicated no, the client was not ready for a session today. And there often was a really good reason to why, so we simply rescheduled. Another way to assess readiness is to sense whether the energy work is being received or blocked, similar to what I mentioned earlier in the video. If you're unsure, again, you can use a dowsing rod or a pendulum to confirm what you're sensing. The most important thing is to respect your client as a whole being. If their higher self isn't on board, even if their personality is, you can either have a gentle conversation about the resistance to see if anything shifts, or you can reschedule rather than pushing through work that won't hold. If the resistance is coming from the personality, you can start by asking them to take a deep breath and relax. If their structure still isn't able to open, even just a little, pause and talk to them about other parallel issues that you can work on instead. Sometimes chipping away at the edges is the best approach. To conclude, as practitioners, our role is to notice, respect, and respond to resistance with integrity. We may never fully understand why it's there, but our job is to support the process and not override it. As a client, it's helpful to remember that you are more than just your personality. You are a whole being, and your higher self is always working in service for your growth. Building that relationship with yourself is a powerful part of your healing and transformation. If this was helpful or if I missed anything, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Also, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It lets me know that these videos are worth making. Remember to tune in, listen deeply, shift completely, and bloom. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.